All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Miledys, your spirit shifter here, guiding you on your journey towards self-awareness. I told y'all that I'm going to get a switchboard one of these days. Y'all going to be surprised. I'm a DJ it up. But anyways, we are here today with podcast number 2 for our grieving journey. It's been a while. And the last time we spoke, it was based on the grief of my dog and how that has transformed me. I had my sister come on and also share her experience as a mother and dealing with grief. So with that being said, we're about to speed this little grief thing up because I know that a lot of us have been figuring things out. So I have my good friend here, Chamo, who I met about almost a year ago in a spiritual event, and he was one of the people who was guiding us through a spiritual journey, and I'm grateful for that because that has transformed me since then till now. And so I just want to share that this will still be based on animal grief, but nonetheless, we all know that grief can be anything from a human being to losing your favorite shoes or rings. So with that being said, I'm gonna throw it to you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chamo. So I met Miledys at Misa that a good friend of mine was hosting for a few people for spiritual development, and I happened to assist her in working the table and guiding a few people through a spiritual journey. So talking about grief in general, like it goes hand in hand a lot with spirituality, right? When I think about grief in general, one of the griefs that I can recall that was like very impactful for me was when I was 19 years old. I had a friend that had passed away. He was 19 as well. We knew each other from high school, so we knew each other since we was like 14. What happened was he got into an altercation with someone, happened to be at the top of a rooftop. He ended up getting stabbed and thrown over the roof, survived, but died at the hospital. But it was something very unexpected. Something was off that weekend. I was still not initiated in anything in the religion at the time. I was growing into it, learning little by little. I wasn't initiated. No eleques, no nothing. Just me, myself, and God, right? But the day he passed away, it was kind of funny because I had gone out drinking, and if anybody knows that you're spiritual, that's when you're most vulnerable. It's when you're drinking, because that's when your mind is clear from all the stuff that keeps you up at night, per se. And I had got out the cab and I was on my way home, and my friend lived not that far from me. I happened to see down the street and I saw ambulances, fire trucks, everything. And I was like, I didn't think nothing of it, went home, went to sleep. I got a phone call in the morning from one of my friends, and I ignored the call because I was like, I'm hungover. Like, I was just like, okay. But then he called me again and he called me again. And I was like, something happened.
Right.
Right. So once I answer the phone, my friend just tells me, hey, David passed away. And I was like, what? So we ended up going to the hospital, and we went to the room and I saw his body. And that was like the most impactful thing that I saw because, that was a close friend of mine. And I had just seen him. He passed away on a Monday. I had seen him that Friday.
Wow.
He passed away. We were hanging out, and he was talking about changing his life around and stuff. So it just was very impactful to even go through that at such a young age, like somebody, and also young. But that was like what really steered me into my spiritual journey, what led me to become initiated into these practices, aside from it being birthly given. But it made me turn more towards my spirituality, my guides, and my ancestors. And you know, and then throughout life, I experienced grief. Another big impact, which has to do with the topic, is animal grief. Right, I lost a dog of mine that I had for 12 years. I had her since she was 2 months. And then she fought a couple life tribulations per se too. She ended up with cancer when she was 5 years old, got her operated. A few years after that, she ended up with like a uterus infection. She had to get another surgery. You know, so she was a fighter. She was definitely a fighter, but she was my guide, my soulmate. You know, it's funny because when we look at Egyptian mythology, the gods represent different animals, right? You see Anubis as the dog, you see Horus as the falcon. So animals hold spiritual guides within them too, you know? So I felt like she came into my life at the time that I needed her most. I had gone through a really, really bad breakup, and I ended up getting her as just like comfort, just something that I can say it's mine. And, you know, I would come home. I used to work overnight. So I used to come home in the morning and I used to sleep with her in my arms. And as she got older, when COVID hit, I ended up with COVID, you know, I didn't have the strength to really take her outside, but she knew that. And she would stay by my side. Wouldn't make a mess in the house. She would literally just wait. But when she couldn't take it anymore, she would like let me know. So, you know, it was very impactful. I still deal with it now. I think about it from time to time, but here we are.
Woo, let's take a deep breath. There's a lot of info, a lot of knowledge and wisdom. Inhale. So I enjoy the fact that you shared what you did with the grief when you were 19. One of the questions that I was going to ask you was, did you have any tools to guide you back then? And it was spirituality. You were able to take that energy and transmute it, even though we all know that it's not something that you're forgetting, but you're empowering yourself as you go through that, and then joining the spiritual side of you allowed you to use that energy even forward and see it from a different perspective. Because a lot of times, you know, I enjoy talking about death, right? This is why I am going to become a grief counselor, because it's something that people, no, por favor. And it's just like the only thing, if it's anything that's promised, if you want to believe anybody, is death. That is the only thing that's promised. So therefore, why are we acting like it don't exist? You know what I mean? And just like you in my first podcast, I had expressed when did I experience death and things like that. So y'all can go back to that. But what I want to share in this one is, many of us grew up in a community, especially if it was the community where you spoke Spanish, where we used to do novenas, right? And if you was Catholic, you'll be doing that, you know. And for us, it was like a little party. It was like 8, 9 years old, going to a little party, right? Eating these things. But we don't realize, for those of us who were doing that, that we were meant to work with that type of spirituality to be comfortable with death. Because novenas is when you're praying for somebody to uplift their soul. So what is an 8-year-old, 9-year-old doing there? You know, and I thought back to that prior to me coming to this podcast, and I'm like, wow, like I was born to do this type of work. And so with that being said, it's important for us to dig deep into that grief, because it fucks up the rest of our lives if we just keep digging it in. For us, that we were with our dogs for that long and had them on a daily basis, right? The part that people don't get is that we shared food with them. You know what I mean? We shared food with them. They was in the bathroom when we was taking showers. You know what I mean? Bothering you. You know, these things is the little things that is irreplaceable, even if you get a new dog, right? So the main important thing that everybody enjoys to say is, oh, just get another one. How do you feel about that?
I've heard that recently. You know, and it's like you said, it's not the same, right? It's a cultural issue, right? That's the way I'm gonna see it. Because here in the United States, or mainly here in the US, dogs are like people. you know, like, but when you look outside the United States, you see more stray dogs. You see people don't really care about dogs like that. Yeah, some of them have pets and stuff like that, but they don't really care. They don't take care of dogs like people do here. They consider them a part of the family. So it's kind of like losing a brother, a mother, a father. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's something that you're really attached to, that goes through things with you. You know, like a dog knows, well, a pet in general, because I'm allergic to cats, so I can't really speak for cats, but I know dogs for sure, like they have like an attachment thing. So it's like they know when you're grieving, they know when you're happy, they know when you're sad, they know your emotions. They know you better than you know yourself. You know, so I heard that recently about, well, you can just get another dog. No, it's not the same, because I have to nurture that dog to be like my own dog. And there's possibilities that the next dog might not take it. They'll be like, no, you know, it's kind of like they have their own personality.
Absolutely.
Just like when we have kids or individual person that we meet. Each person that we meet has a different personality.
Absolutely.
Same thing is with the dog. You know, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's not the same. It's the same. It's irreplaceable. It's irreplaceable.
And it's not until somebody experiences that. I remember, like, I feel like the things that I do, I'm like ahead of my friends and family. So I had 2 dogs, one for 11 years and one for 13 years, right? I think it's like that. Right? It's like you don't want to always think about the age. Because then you'd be like, damn, those could have been my kids. But anyway, so I had them. And I started realizing that 2 different characters waking up in the morning, 2 different entities. One wants to do one thing, one wants to do another thing. And those characteristics are the ones that fill your day. Because when you look through a dog's eye, there is no lie.
Very true.
Like, if you ever get a chance, just stare into a dog's eye. It's the most beautifulest thing that you could ever feel. There's no explanation for it. It's just pure love, pure compassion, and it's something that you can't replace.
I can't agree more. You know, there was times that I would come home, especially when I had COVID and I was here by myself. That was before I got married, had kids. All I had was mainly her. My aunt that passed away too, that raised me. She had passed away in 2020, so all that was left was my dog. You know, and that grief was very impactful, and my dog was there for it all. You know, she met my aunt, she knew my aunt as well. So when my aunt left, it's the same thing. It's hard, just in general.
Whew. And one of the things is being able to call in people that can resonate with what you're feeling, as opposed to what I've learned, as opposed to reaching out to people and let them know how you feel when they don't really understand, because they haven't really gone through that experience. So what I realized through this journey is that I have to be in a space where people have been grieving about dogs, so that I can feel comfortable to share. I can't go outside and walk through the same block over again. You know what I mean? Because if I say that to a friend or somebody that has not been through that, they just gonna, oh, get over it, Miledys. You can't be like that for that long. And it's just like, you don't get it. It's like saying, you know, and people might take it this the wrong way, but hey, it is what it is. When your parents pass away, and just be like, get another parent. Like, my mom's passed away, so like at the end of the day, I could say these jokes. Fuck that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I agree. It's just, you know, a lot of people don't understand how impactful it is to lose a pet. Because it's, like I said earlier, it's the same thing as losing a family member. It's something that, you know, a lot of people, it's hard to get over.
Yes.
You think about it because you establish a relationship.
So one thing that I say is that for anyone that goes through any type of grief, and again, and this one people don't really get, like, your ego could be going through a death as well. So yeah, I'll go look into that. That's that shadow work or whatever. But some of us have identity crisis, right? Because we're at a space where we're no longer there anymore. For example, an old job. So what do you do with yourself when you're not at that job, but you're at a different job? You have to shift. It's the same way when you when somebody passes away. You can't, I said this morning in a blog that I wrote, you can't really live the same way without the people that helped you create the memory.
And that's the only thing that we take, right? Is the memories. Because if you look at materialistic things, there's no moving truck at the back of a hearse. So that's one thing. But like for me, when I'm grieving, whether when it was with my pet or with my friend or my aunt, like I shut down completely. That's just me. I shut down. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to see nobody. You know, I have to go through it by myself. You know, like I'll sit down at my boulevard and just.
So you're not alone. You with the spirits. You like, oh yeah.
That's one thing that I turn to is my guides, my spiritual. You know, if it wasn't for them, I probably would have been lost.
Okay. This is what I enjoy about meeting a brother that's part of just tapping into your intuition, your that side of you, because you get to know that you're not alone in this journey, and you get to see the bigger picture of what's happening. Yes, we are human and we understand the mundane world. So yes, I am gonna cry today. But again, let me use this energy to see what else spirit can guide me towards, so that I can be able to be the best version of myself. Because obviously, if you still have me alive, the mission is not over. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And the day that my dog passed away, it was crazy because I happened to work from home that day, and it was like she was waiting for me to be home for it to happen. I had tried to take her out in the morning. She didn't have no energy, so she ended up peeing on herself and everything. And I was like, she's not okay. When she came back into the apartment and everything, she laid down next to one of my santos. Mm. She laid on Chango, which happened to be, it was a couple of days after my santo birthday. So my santos were covered for my santo birthday. So she ended up laying down on like this nice scarf that I have for Chango. And I'm just looking at her and I'm just like, I didn't want to see her like that. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to Chango and I was like, if you see that she's suffering, please take her. Okay. You know, and that same day, that same afternoon, she passed away. You know, I stayed with her till the end. As she was transitioning, I was like bathing her. And then, you know, like anybody that passes away, they release their bowels and everything. So I had to clean her up and everything. And then, you know, I had to find a crematory at that moment, because, you know, New York lets you like put them in the bag and throw it in the garbage. But I was like, absolutely not.
Remind me to say something. Go ahead.
I was like, absolutely not. She doesn't deserve to go out like that. So I looked into a crematory. I Googled it. I found one. I drove all the way out in Brooklyn, almost by Coney Island. That was the cheapest one I found. The owner was Jewish, and it happened to be Sabbath, the start of Sabbath.
Sabbath.
And you know, but he did me the favor. He was like, don't worry. He's like, you can bring your dog. So I'm driving all the way to Brooklyn from Manhattan, crying like a baby, with my dog in the trunk, you know, and it was just, you know, and then I had to say my last goodbyes and stuff. So when I handed her over, so it was a lot.
Yeah. I thank you for sharing that, because people don't get to hear the process. You know, I haven't been able to hear somebody else's process. This is my first time, and I appreciate you for sharing that, because I can definitely resonate with how it went. I was blessed to be able to have people to support me during the moments that these things happen for my dogs, which by the way, I didn't mention to everybody else from last year to this year. We did have to put Bison down, so I don't have neither of the dogs, for those of you who were concerned about what happened to Bison. But they famous because they be on YouTube barking while I was doing my reading, so y'all can remember them like that. But for the most part, there was somebody that I was co-dogging with, if you want to call it that, co-dogging, if you get it, right? And I remember that one of my dogs, he passed away. He had like they gave me 3 days with him from like the 6th to the 8th. Around September, when I told you, and I was like, it was the 8th, right between Yemaya and Ochun's celebration and stuff like that. But I was begging to Salasoro, oh, Salasoro, give me one more day with him. Hey, bro, I got one more day with him, and I was able to, hang out with him. My brother, well, I call my brother, came from Connecticut, and him and his wife assisted me with that, and I was grateful. But in the midst of all of that, I shared the news to the person, and they was like, oh, they first of all never came, and then on top of that, after everything was done, just like you, I found a place in Connecticut or whatever the case might be, and that was cheaper than New York, because New York be raping you. I'm sorry. Oh. And go to Connecticut, and I'll tell y'all where. In fact, I'm gonna put in the description below. They was good. I don't get no commission for this, but listen, I know what it is. I'll pet this. And the person was like, oh, well, you didn't have to cremate them. You could have put them in a bag and put them on the sidewalk. That was the last day that person ever heard from me.
I would have done the same thing. I would have done this.
That's somebody that my dog, like, bro, shut the fuck up. Anyways, so I get it for people who feel like they don't have it. We're just sharing from the love that we, like, what our pets meant to us, and how we want to make sure that they have a quarterly end of life, especially being people who are in the spiritual realm.
No, of course. And, as me, that I'm initiated now in different practices, it's a little different because, we get our paths for our lives, right? So it so happened that in one of my many readings, I have to have a pet. It's a form of cleansing, protection, so there's many things that it could have been. She probably picked up a lot of stuff that was being thrown at me, because in this community, you'll learn you could be the most silent person and the envious person at the same time. Like, people will envy you, and you are probably minding your own business.
9 out of 10 times you minding your own business.
And people are here doing stuff to you, So, but luckily, I'm heavily protected, and it's, it had to do something probably with the dog as well, just because the dog got sick a few times throughout the years. And, I eventually will get another dog. When that's going to happen, I'm not sure. I don't, probably in like 5 years. When, I'm in like a house, I just feel like now.
Yes, we've learned a lot.
Yeah, having a dog in an apartment is not good. They don't really have that much space. Yeah, we can take them to the dog park, everything like that. But in hindsight, it's like we spend most of our days at work. So my dog was mainly home by herself. And, you don't want to have something that you're not going to be around with so often. Now that I have the option to work from home now more often, I'll be home and be able to care more for another pet than before. So, that's very important, especially when you have a puppy. You have to be there a lot. It's a lot to train. It's just harder for me. Like, I know people might be saying, oh, but why don't you just rescue? It's kind of hard when you rescue. I have 2 young kids. So, to train a rescue dog, it's harder. I'm putting more of my kids at risk of getting bitten and stuff like that. Me, if I get bit, whatever, but my kids is a little different. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't rescue a dog, but it would have to be like a puppy.
Right.
But I rather adopt and shop. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Like my dog, when I had gotten my dog through one of my close friends, who his friend happened to call him and was like, I can't keep this dog. Like, do you want her? And he's allergic to dogs. So he said, no, I can't. So he knew I wanted one. So he called me and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I took her and I didn't pay anything for that dog. But I, you know, she was going to be put who knows where. She was only 2 months. So, and she was a blue nose pit. And she had like a brindle coat. Yeah.
Oh,
She had
Marshall pit bulls, yo. We definitely gotta probably come back and talk again because, you know, the I don't what do you call this? I don't. Anyways, the way that people look at the pits as opposed to other dogs, which is one of the reasons why I was hesitant to move because I wasn't going to be accepted in certain areas because my dogs was big and they were pit bulls. But I kid you one thing, my dogs never ever bit anybody the time that they was with me, and they was always around kids. So that says a lot. But anyways,
no, it does. It does. Even my dog, like you know, I trained her as well to like when my son was born. You know, when I took his newborn blanket and I put it in her crate, so she could start getting used to his scent, everything, so she doesn't feel threatened. You know, and showing the same amount of affection is very important. The same way I was showing affection to my son, I had to show affection to my dog, because then they do get jealous. You know, like they do get jealous.
and if it's a female, more jealous.
And you know, they can tell when you shift energies, so you definitely have to keep that balance.
Oh man. Gone but never forgotten, right? We're probably gonna get off the podcast and we gonna cry because at the end of the day we love them. But for the most part, I did want to say one thing that our dogs left us with. Like you shared earlier, they were your guides. I also know that my dogs were there for me to tap deeper into spirituality, because one thing about animals in general is that they don't speak the same language that we do, but for some apparent reason, we were able to enhance at our we're telepathic, right? Telepathic, and we really use our intuition. I don't know if you ever thought about it that way, but we knew what was going on with them and they knew what was going on with us without really speaking. Like, yes, we spoke to them, but 9 out of 10 times, I'm pretty sure that's why they do this, because they don't know what the fuck we saying, you know?
That no, but it's true. Like we would be able to tell what the dogs where I definitely knew, like my dog would come to me, I already knew what she wanted, whether it was food, play fetch, go outside. You know, it was always, I already knew.
Right.
So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah, because it helps us now with what we do with spirituality and connecting with the clients that we have and things like that. They helped us with that, you know, they helped us heighten that. Because again, like, how the hell are we gonna know that they want to drink some water or do this, that, and the third? They ain't talking, they fucking barking at us. Oh my God, this was beautiful. I appreciate you. This is so healing. One thing that I wanted to say, do you feel that not say, but ask, do you feel like you've been getting the support that you need to grieve about your pet?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you know, I turned towards my religion and my spirituality, like, and you know, that's always going to be what's going to guide me. I don't really trust humanity like that. I think humanity ain't shit. Just too much shit. People will tell you certain things and then tell you something else later on. Like you said, people are quick to tell you, oh, but you can get another pet. Like, why are you crying? Who wants to have people around like that around? You know, so
one of the things I would say is Facebook has a great community, right? I went on Facebook and it's about a pet loss. It's a whole community of people who lost their pets and things like that. And I found that very healing for myself, because now I didn't have to call my siblings and tell them, oh, I miss my dog. I could just post up there and people will really be like, me too. I can't even walk down the block. And I'll be like, oh my God. So like I learned through the loss of my dogs to find community, which in the past I would not have, you know what I mean? Which is what guided me to want to speak more about it, because it's just like, whoa, nobody talks about this shit.
Nah, yeah, because a lot of people think it's not important, but it's just as important as just having if someone passes away.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you came on. And one of the main points that you keep expressing to us is to tap into yourself when you go into grieving, calling on your spirit guide, and being able to use that energy to create something else in your life that's gonna make you even more happier, right?
No, it is. Tapping in is very important. You know, when you tap in, you get to hear things that you probably never really paid mind to that might assist you through that grief.
Yes. Well, is there anywhere anybody can find you, or this is just you just stopping by, dropping some gems, and you back to the hiding? What's going on?
I'll stay in the hiding, but if anything, if anybody needs anything, they can reach out to you, and then you can reach out to me.
You already know. I love you so much. Is there any quote that you enjoy to leave us with?
No, I pretty much said what I said earlier in terms of, you know, we take our memories with us. We don't take materialistic things. We don't take money. So just try to make as many memories, whether it be with family, friends, your pets. Because that's the only thing you really take in the end.
All right, y'all. And you already know we're going to come out with more as I continue to heal and find people to speak about this. I don't want to just come on here and make this like a lecture. I want to be sure to connect people with real people that's going through this so you don't feel alone. So with that being said, I'll catch you on the next one, and I appreciate you for listening. And Chamo, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you.
No problem.